The TV adaptation of the Wheel of Time book series is heralded as a feminist Game of Thrones. But is that really supported by what we see on screen? Just as a disclaimer, I have not read any of the books and I am completely new to the series. I am solely basing this video on what I have seen in the show up to this point. So, spoilers ahead for episodes 1 to 5. So is the Wheel of Time a feminist fantasy series? Well, the answer is surprisingly complicated. There are a ton of important female characters, which in itself is rare in popular fantasy. More than that, the female characters are not just girl bosses. What I mean by girl boss is that they're not just killing machines who are one of the boys. I am talking of characters such as Arya in Game of Thrones. The female characters in the Wheel of Time are strong without needing to wield swords and beat up their opponents. Many women are in positions of power and authority, holding significant power in society. The most prominent example are the Aes Sedai, who are these elite women possessing magic living in the Ivory Tower. Aside from them, there is Nynaeve, who is the wisdom of her village, a sort of sage who has some form of greater authority in her community. Even the magic system is set up in a way to favor women. Men cannot wield magic without going insane, and the Aes Sedai see them as dangerous and hunt these men. The show opens on such a sequence. It is an incredibly powerful opening sequence. We are so used to seeing men on horses hunting running women on screen that it is a powerful reversal. It was chilling to watch. I did not feel like, yeah, girl power, and thankfully the show did not try to frame it that way. So far it seems like the show presents a matriarchal society where women have an innate advantage over men, leading them to accumulate positions of power over time. It is similar to our own world but reversed. However, this setup is quickly challenged. Episode 2 opens with a much more familiar scene in terms of gender dynamics. A new villain, who is a member of the White Cloaks, is introduced, who dies and enjoys the view of an Aes Sedai being burned alive. We find out that this woman is the 7th such victim. This is very familiar to real-world witch burnings. These accusations and preceding burnings of witches in our world were directed against women who challenged a patriarchal society and as a result were denounced as dangerous. This scene is trying to evoke the same imagery, but this is completely recontextualized. The Aes Sedai are actually powerful witches, and this world is matriarchal. So how come the villain was able to overpower this witch if she's so powerful, and how come he's able to do it with impunity 7 times in a row? He's presented as a force to be reckoned with, a danger on the road who has authority and everyone has to appease him. But how could this be possible? If the world is truly ruled by women, such a man would not be tolerated or be in a position of power. He poses the highest challenge imaginable to this matriarchal society. He is killing supposedly untouchable, all-powerful women. It is by no accident that in the real world, violent, misandrist paramilitary organizations don't exist. Women who hate men cannot accumulate such power, as they are challenged at every step of the way. Just imagine a gang of women going around murdering the most powerful male politicians in broad daylight. It is simply unimaginable that this could exist. There is a flip side to the White Cloaks. A group of women in a position of power who hate men.
This power, it's meant for women. And women alone.
They are the Reds of the Aes Sedai. They are a separate faction of the Order who do not have a designated male guardian. This man is a self-proclaimed dragon reborn, a sort of messiah, a man who can wield magic. The Aes Sedai are afraid of such men, as they threaten the status quo and they hunt them down and take away their powers. Episode 4 deals with this man who is trapped and restrained by the Aes Sedai. Liandrin, the most prominent Red, wants to just take his powers away without a trial, but the rest of the Aes Sedai insist on a proper trial. This strikes me as quite odd. This man is public enemy number 1, but the all-powerful Order of Witches decide to take the risk of an attack or him escaping by insisting on a trial. In the real world, powerful people get away with things, especially against marginalized people. They can act with impunity as they are the law. seeing the Aes Sedai be restricted and not abusing their power seemed quite unrealistic, especially when it is so clearly in their interest to do so. Of course, if the Aes Sedai would have followed through without trial, the audience would have seen them as villainous. This is a losing conundrum. On the one hand, the Aes Sedai are perceived to have less power, undercutting the matriarchal world, especially when contrasted to the White Cloak villain, who kills without consequences. On the other hand, it would depict the rulers who are women as villainous. And this is the paradox that is at the heart of the problem with trying to make A Wheel of Time more feminist. In other shows, the patriarchy is allowed to be as terrible as in real life and depicted as such, with men abusing their power constantly. But because of the patriarchal society we live in, this does not reflect badly on all men, and it does not send the message that all men are evil. Audiences understand that these are the villains representing a rotten system. The story can still have male heroes. Hell, most people even love male villains. However, if the same is done in a fictional matriarchal setting, it reflects badly on all women of the story. This is the exact same reason why female heroes are more boring, as they're not allowed to be flawed characters. Women are judged more harshly than their male counterparts, so writers are not inclined to give them faults. To be fair to the show, the storyline with the man claiming to be a messiah wraps up how one would expect in a matriarchal society. After the inevitable fight, he's subdued, his power is taken away, and then he's paraded through the streets in a cage powerless, while people throw rotten fruit at him in humiliation. However, he does manage to kill one of the Aes Sedai. Almost all of the Aes Sedai have at least one male companion. Their warden, who is their protector / partner / servant. It is a complicated relationship. The Aes Sedai and their partner bond, and they can feel each other's pain and emotion. After the Aes Sedai dies in the show, the story focuses on the pain of the warden. While watching it, this felt very similar to the fridged women trope, where the woman dies to give the man motivation, drive, or emotional development. This was an odd choice, as in other shows, when an important warrior dies, it would not be his wife that the show focuses on, but usually his son, serving as a motivation for revenge or a catalyst to manhood and maturity. The Warden are also clearly in a lower class compared to the Aes Sedai, and in this episode, we focus primarily on them. This is akin to focusing on the servants in a royal court drama. It just doesn't happen. However, there is a twist. Instead of moving on or swearing revenge, the man commits suicide by the end of the episode. This usually happens to female characters who cannot bear the pain, but men never break and give up their lives because of grief over women. Altogether, this was an interesting episode where the men get more exposure, but also there's a clear gendered subversion. This example, in my opinion, encapsulates most of the show, where there are clear attempts to be subversive when it comes to gender dynamics, but at the same time the show unconsciously undercuts itself, as we unfortunately still live in a patriarchal society. Completely breaking away from these storytelling conventions is incredibly difficult. Overall, the show is clearly trying to be gender subversive. I would not call it feminist, as superiority of one gender over the other blatantly goes against the core principle of feminism. However, the result is a mixed bag, where it sometimes feels like men have more power in society, while other times it feels like it is the women who have the power. The show's storytelling is similarly inconsistent, but overall it certainly feels fresh, and I can tell that the creators are actively trying, even if they are not succeeding 100% of the time.